Welcome to Orange Coast Unitarian Universalist Church. My name is Jolene Ibanez, and I am your worship associate today. I am joined by Reverend Sean Wilcher, our minister, Beth Syverson, our director of music ministries, and Karen Magoon Pearson, who is our director of religious education for children and youth, in welcoming you this morning. We would also like to recognize the many volunteers that have helped put this service together today. We respectfully recognize that our church property rests on Ahachiman and Tongva land. As Unitarian Universalists, we have many different beliefs, but we are one loving community. We are bound together, not by a common set of rules or beliefs, but rather a covenant. A covenant is a promise that whatever our beliefs, we accept one another and we encourage each other in spiritual growth. We affirm that all life has inherent value and that all existence is interconnected. We strive for justice and compassion in our deeds and our relationships. We are committed to creating a welcoming community without regard to the traits that sometimes divide people. To our roomers, we invite you to silence your cell phones. And for our Zoomers, we ask that you say hello in the chat. Recently, the COVID Safety Task Force, that's a tongue twister, the COVID Safety Task Force met to discuss our Sunday morning mask requirements. Starting next week, we unanimously decided to relax the requirement for masks for everyone, including participants, the children and RE, and the choir. Masks will be optional, and we know that you will honor and respect those who decide to wear them. For the last year or more, we have worked hard to make sure that the circulation in this room is very high to reduce the chance of anyone getting COVID. Today you'll notice that the choir will have their masks off during their singing, right? Okay. And we will have closed one of these doors, but the latter due to the cold. We're going to test the CO2 levels to let you know how those changes affect the circulation in the room so that you can make an informed decision about whether or not to wear a mask. Please note that we ask that you please stay home and watch online if you're feeling sick at all. The COVID Safety Task Force will continue to monitor and deal with any changes that might occur in the future. Thank you, everyone, for your patience, your support, and your love for this community. I want to extend a special welcome to visitors. If you're seeking a spiritual home, we hope that you will find it here. Later in the service, we will have an opportunity for you to introduce yourself if you would like to do so. We begin our worship with the lighting of our chalice. This morning, I'd like to invite Sandy Martin to light the chalice. She has been a member of the UU congregation, particularly at when we were on Victoria, since the 70s. She took a 30-year sabbatical from us, but she was still UU in Santa Barbara, and then she returned here 9 years ago, and she's been our loving everything ever since. She's done everything. Haven't you, baby? And she did these flowers today. Isn't she great? Thank you, dear. Oh, we forgot to do the actual, I'm all yakking about her. Okay, everyone say together. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. To dwell together in peace, to seek truth in love, and to help one another. This we affirm together. There you go.
Good morning, everyone. Our opening song is going to get us in the mood about talking about animals. And it's a traditional hymn that some of you might recognize, but we threw in a few extra lyrics there just to make it fun. So please rise and embody your spirit. All things bright and beautiful, all creatures great and small, all things wise and wonderful, the Lord God made them all. Each little flower that
believe Monty Python came up with those alternative lyrics. Come into animal presence. No man is so guileless as the serpent. The lonely white rabbit on the roof is a star, twitching its ears at the rain. The llama, intricately folding its hind legs to be seated, not disdains, but mildly disregards human approval. And what joy the insouciant armadillo glances at us and doesn't quicken his trotting across the track into the palm brush. What is this joy? That no animal falters but knows what it must do. That the snake has no blemish, that the rabbit inspects his strange surroundings in white star silence. The llama rests in dignity. The armadillo has some intention to pursue in the palm forest. Those who were sacred have remained so. Holiness does not dissolve. It is a presence of bronze. Only the sight that saw it faltered and turned from it. Oh, the old joy returns in holy presence. I'd like to invite Karen Magoon Pearson up here to join us to do their Time for All Ages. We're going to be talking about pigs. Oh, pigs are cool. Tell us how you really feel.
All right. Well, do you think you'd like to be a pig? No. Do you think... Would a pig like to be you? No. So I think maybe pigs just like to be pigs. So let's find out in this video.
I love summer showers. I love pretty flowers. But most of all, I love mud for hours. I love being a pig. I love how mud feels. I love how mud sounds. I love mud on the ground. I love being a pig. I love mud on my tail. I love mud on my snout. I love mud all about. I love being a pig. I love to feel the sunshine. I love mud all the time. And I love being a swine. A pig. I-L-O-V. I love being a pig. pig.
So here's some fun facts about pigs that you might not have known. So I heard someone just say pigs are very dirty. Well, the truth is pigs are actually very clean animals. So maybe you've had someone call your messy bedroom a pigsty, but pigs are actually very clean animals. In fact, they're some of the cleanest animals around and refuse to go to the bathroom where they sleep and eat if given the choice. Even newborn piglets. That's kind of better than human babies when you think about it. Some other information that pigs can't sweat. So sometimes we hear sweating like a pig, but that's another commonly used but misleading phrase because pigs can't sweat. Just like dogs, they can't sweat to cool off. So in warm temperatures, they like to roll around in the mud to cool their skin off. And the mud keeps the pig's skin from getting sunburned. So that's pretty smart. Another fact, pigs are smart. They're as smart or maybe smarter than your dog. It's true. Pigs have the intelligence of a human 2-year-old. I know some 2-year-olds. And are ranked as the 5th most intelligent animal in the world. In fact, pigs are extremely trainable, better than most dogs. They learn their names in just 2 weeks, and they come when they're called. And one study showed that they were better at operating a joystick for a video game than toddlers and primates. Pigs talk a lot. So one way that pigs communicate with one another is through distinct grunts and squeals. More than 20 vocalizations have been identified, each one conveying a different message. Mothers have special calls for their piglets, and the piglets learn to recognize their mother's call. Pigs are also very social. They love to hang out. Have you ever seen a piggy pile? Pigs love to stay connected with each other by sleeping close together, often making sure they touch their friends while they drift off to dreamland. Few animals are more social than pigs, who form close bonds with other pigs and humans. Pigs also have powerful noses. A pig's sense of smell is by far their strongest sense. They use their snout to search for food and for gathering information during social interactions. Their sense of smell is around 2,000 times more sensitive than a human's. And finally, pigs can't fly, but they can run and swim. So while pigs may not look like the most agile of animals, they can reach speeds of up to 11 miles per hour. And in some parts of the world, especially in the Bahamas, pigs have been observed swimming in the sea. So next time someone calls you a pig, you can say, "Thank you. I am clean, smart, and friendly." And now I'm going to light our children's chalice, and I'll head out with the other teachers for our religious education classes.
We hold you in our love as you go, as you go. May your heart be at peace as you go. To nurture the spark of your precious life. We hold you in our love as you go.
All right, well, so today's topic is a bit of a contentious one, but it's brought to you by our wonderful Maureen over here, who, yes, thank you. She always gives me really interesting topics that makes me struggle. So she won the right to choose the topic that I was going to preach on today at our last fall auction. And if you remember a few years ago, she also won it then, and she asked me to speak about factory farming. And some of you might remember that service. It was actually one of my most impactful services that we've ever done. And a number of people came up to me and said that they changed the way and where they bought meat and all that sort of thing. So I'm really proud of that because it also changed me about how I view where I'm going to get my meat. So for this sermon, Maureen asked me to tackle a very interesting question, which is the morality of killing animals for food. Okay, and in particular looking at pigs. So we learned a lot about pigs already this morning because they are very highly intelligent social creatures, just as we learned. So now before I begin, I want to acknowledge that this, as I mentioned, can be a very highly charged topic. Jolyn this morning said to me, okay, so you're going to piss off half of the congregation one way or the other. And I don't believe that's true because I am not going to tell you what to eat or how to eat. I'm going to give the arguments to you and you can decide what you want to do with that. There is a lot of judgment around this issue. One side calls, meat eaters murderers, and other side might call vegetarians bleeding hearts. That sort of thing. Now, Maureen, who is a vegetarian and has a huge, huge heart, she doesn't want to put people off, right? She's like, if you know Maureen, you know she's an incredibly loving person. And all she wants to do is give people an opportunity to really think about our choices, because we don't really think about them one way or the other. She has a really good point that in this modern age, we're so very removed from the killing of animals for food that we don't necessarily think about where it comes from. It's all nicely packaged for us. So that's what we're going to do this morning. I'm going to invite you to let go of any judgment one way or other, right? Oh, I'm this way, I'm that way. No, just let it go, let it go. I'm not going to tell you what you're going to do. I'm really going to ask you to have an open mind and consider all of the information that I'm going to hand you today. The other thing I want to mention, I was telling the choir this morning, I have rewritten this sermon probably about 3 or 4 times because it's a very complex issue and challenging to get into 20 minutes. So we're going to do what we can today. So I thought we might start with some history about killing animals for food. So Homo sapiens, that's us modern humans, we evolved somewhere around 300 to 200 years ago, and about 95 to 98% of that of our evolution has been killing animals for survival. We had very little choice, right? No one argues with this. We were hunter-gatherers, and that's how we survived. Somewhere around 20,000 years ago, we learned about agriculture. We learned about how to domesticate animals and domesticate plants. And so our eating habits started to change, and there became more of an emphasis on food, although we always had that. But we still eat meat, right? Again, meat was still part of a matter of life and death. Now, the debate about killing animals for food, as far as we know, in the Western world at least, we know it goes at least back to Aristotle and Plato. Aristotle was against it, Plato was for it, just in case if you wanted to know. So we know that there was a little bit of debate even back then, right? And of course, there are the Hebrew scriptures, right, that tell us that particularly if you're of a Christian background, that God gave humanity dominion over the beasts, and that's had a big influence about how we treat animals. But really, I think what really codified everything, and what most people sort of recognize, was that about in the 17th century, this guy named, you might know him, René Descartes, he's known as the father of Western philosophy. Some of you might know him. He's the guy who said ergo cogito, cogito ergo sum, right? Therefore I am. I think therefore I am, right? So he also, his other argument was that he denied that animals had reason or intelligence, that instead they were more like machines that didn't have a soul and therefore really could not feel pain or anxiety. And if an animal expressed any pain, it was only an innate desire to protect itself, not real suffering, right? Now, that's kind of a little bit odd. I think to many of us would be like, really? No, we know animals can feel pain. But this understanding actually influenced so much of how we approached the farming of animals for hundreds of years. And it led to a lot of the mistreatment of animals until really the 19th century, and the ASPCA, which was actually founded by a Unitarian, if you didn't know that. But at any rate, it's led to people mistreating animals, influencing how much of what we view animals today. And it's only been in the last century that people have begun to really understand animals' emotional states. Like, do they feel emotions? And as a matter of fact, this wonderful woman, we heard about her last week too. This is in part because we learned a lot. Jane Goodall, the famed evolutionary biologist, wrote in 2009 that farm animals feel pleasure and sadness, excitement and resentment, depression, fear, and pain. They are much more sensitive and intelligent than we ever imagined. And the research is bearing this out, okay? In fact, we're learning that intelligence is multifaceted, that different beings have different types of intelligences, right? Now, in the 1960s, meat consumption around the world has gone up since the 1960s in a big way, particularly in China with pork. Did you ever notice that we don't call pigs pig meat? It's pork. It's not cow meat, it's beef, right? It's kind of just an interesting little thing about that. One thing that's interesting, actually, if you notice on this, you can see that North America meat has kind of leveled off here, and Canada and the US. But what's interesting is that actually beef and pork have gone down, but chicken has skyrocketed, is actually what's happening. And we live at a time when meat production is at an all-time high and quite frankly, environmentally devastating. So there are also big environmental issues around all of this. So pork, China is actually the biggest consumer of pork. This is actually an example of a pig farm in China. So rather than letting pigs roam and forage, which they will naturally do, they're actually pig sanctuaries, and they actually have all the instincts to form societies and forage for themselves. This is what we do them. And the amount of CO2 also that these farms actually emit into the atmosphere is absolutely horrific for the environment. And in fact, most environmentalists will tell you that the number one thing that you can do as an individual to help the environment is don't eat meat. Because so much goes into the production to just feed one cow or one pig. So think about cutting back or eating meat. All right, now we also live in an age when we know enough about nutrition, because that's one of the arguments, well, you get a lot of nutrition from meat, and you do. But we can also figure out ways to get all the protein, vitamin B12, and other goodies from other places that meat gives us. Not to mention all of the issues around hormones and antibiotics that get pumped into animals that might cause us harm, especially pigs. They're pumped full of antibiotics and hormones. Okay, I have kind of blasted you all with a bunch of information this morning. Kind of want you to think, again, just sort of taking all of this in. I'm willing to bet it's not a huge surprise for some of you. So if we know that animals are sentient, or at least they have some intelligence and emotions, some form of awareness, and that raising and killing animals hurts the environment, and that it's perfectly healthy to not eat meat, that we can find ways of not doing that, the question remains, is it morally permissible to kill an animal for food? Let me ask this another way. Could you kill this cute little piglets for food? All right, I'm playing upon your emotions. I know I am. All right, now before I haven't gotten to the arguments for killing animals for food. We're going to do that next. But before we go there, I'd like to offer you the chance to think about those questions that I just asked, if even just for a few moments. And now some of you are vegetarians or vegans, but most of us here, I'm willing to bet, are like me, omnivore. That is that you eat both meat and plants. And maybe I'm wrong, but I only briefly, actually, I've thought about this a little bit in the past, but I've never thought about it as much as I had in this last week, let me tell you. So I just want to invite you all to keep an open mind and to seriously contemplate a series of 3 questions that I'm going to give you. So join me in a spirit of meditation by taking a couple of deep breaths. If you want to plant your feet on the ground, maybe your shoulders, take some deep breaths, soften your eyes. All right, so first question is this. Do you think it's morally permissible to kill an animal for food? Do you think it's morally permissible to kill an animal for food? If you have an answer for that, that's okay. If you're conflicted, that's okay too. My second question is, do you think animals are sentient? And does that change anything about how you feel about them being killed for food? Do you think animals are sentient? And does that change anything about how you feel about them being killed for food? And my third question, do you think that 100 years or more in the future, we will look back on this time and be horrified at our killing animals for food, much like we are horrified at the treatment of people of color and women? Do you think that sometime in the future we will look back on this time and be horrified at our killing animals for food, much like we are horrified at the treatment of people of color and women? Deep breaths. And when you're ready, let us sing.
All of us belong, each and every one. All of us belong in this sacred circle. All of us belong, each and every one. All of us belong in this sacred. We have wings and paws and tails and toes and instincts and souls. We have wings and paws and tails and toes and instincts and souls. All of us belong. Each and every one. All of us belong in the sacred circle. All of us belong, each and every one. All of us belong in this sacred. We have wings and toes and tails and toes and instincts and souls. We have wings and paws and tails and toes and instincts and souls. All of us belong, each and every one. All of us belong in this sacred circle.
So it used to be that the argument for being a meat eater and for killing animals for food was that animals were simply stupid and not self-aware, and it's still thought in some places, but here in the US, most people, I would assume most people in this room, if they think about it, understand that animals do have intelligence of some sort, and they have feelings and emotions, that kind of thing. And it's because of this new knowledge around animal welfare and environmental issues that vegetarianism and veganism has greatly increased in this nation. In the last 20 years, it's gone from 2% of the population to 6%, and it's now climbing up to 8% of the population. And trends show that it's going to keep on growing, and it's become this multi-billion-dollar industry. So if we know all of these facts, why do some of us still eat meat? Now, some say it's just cultural in the Western world. It's just because we're used to it. I certainly grew up with meat at almost every dinner meal, certainly. As my friend Jewel, who's from the Midwest, as she put it, it just doesn't feel like a meal without meat. I think it's also something that we expect. It's everywhere. It's in restaurants and family dinners and our holidays. It's, in a sense, sort of habit. It's part of that Western culture. And there's some truth to all of that. But there's another reason, another big kind of reason, and it was demonstrated really well. I just happened to be reading this book. It's called Burn. And the guy here, Herman Ponzer, he's a professor of evolutionary anthropology at Duke University. And in his book, Burn, he was studying with the Hadza, which is an African tribe that's still one of the last hunter-gatherer tribes and peoples on this earth. And in the book, he talks about an interesting scene that happened around his friend's computer one night. He said, "Movie night on the savannah. The entire Hadza camp is gathered in the darkness around Brian's laptop. There's a nature documentary on, and everyone loves it. Every time a new animal protagonist walks into the frame, the chatter wells up from the crowd. Ooh, look at that wildebeest. Oh man, that's a huge giraffe." Then it's a nighttime scene at the edge of a water hole. Elephants come to drink, desperate for water at the height of the dry season. But lions are lurking nearby. They pounce on a baby elephant. The little elephant raises its tiny trunk and bleats its pained baby elephant cry. The crowd is rapt, myself included. The adult elephants try to run the lions off, but it's no use. There are too many lions, and they attack like ninjas, one after the other, and soon it's over. A baby elephant, I think. Oh God, the horror. Surely nature has erred. Something this repugnant wasn't supposed to happen. The Hadza erupt in glee. Ha! The lions got him! I'm stunned. What psychopaths root for the lions? Then it begins to sink in. Feeling bad for the elephants is a luxury of life in the industrialized world, experiencing nature through a television screen. To grow up in it, to live in nature every day, is to understand that it doesn't want to snuggle. There's no majestic drama playing itself out for our benefit or your spiritual growth. Instead, you are part of a jumbled crowd of species, some malevolent, others indifferent, none of them your friends. Hadza hate elephants because elephants are massive and ornery and occasionally kill Hadza. They view elephants with the same affection as they view snakes, and Hadza people hate snakes. The Hadza don't weep for the animals they hunt and kill any more than you cry over a cup of yogurt. They're not cynical or jaded, but they know the deal. Being part of the ecosystem means eating others, whether it's plants or animals. The wild dog that catches your scent on the breeze and turns to follow will feel no remorse as they tear out your innards. Nothing personal, it's just business. Understanding life as a real functioning ecosystem requires us to abandon the romantic Disney-esque mythologies that we've been fed, grouping up in our sheltered suburbias. So this is probably one of the biggest reasons why people are okay with killing animals for food. In other words, they feel like it's natural, it's part of our nature. We are omnivores and we eat meat, right? As Ponzer points out later in the book, he says, there is neither good nor bad in nature. We place those cultural assessments on an otherwise amoral and indifferent cast of characters. Now, before you think this is, my coup de grace, everybody you can eat meat story, okay? Yeah, I'm not done, okay? Because our natures as human beings are far more complex than that, right? We are thoughtful. We can be incredibly compassionate. We can make connections with animals, too. We have a sense of morality, of right and wrong, that most animals even do not. we have an incredible capacity of humans to go beyond our basic natures and to change if we want to. Part of the problem with both sides of these arguments, I think, is that they're very reductionist, right? They kind of want to reduce humans down to one thing. Either we're reducing us down to mere animals with no ability to change, or we're reducing us as mindless murderers without a heart. But we are far more complex than either of these reductionist and, quite frankly, insulting points of view. One of our biggest problems in facing the issues of killing animals is our judgment around the issue. Matter of fact, I read this one woman's blog who used to be very judgmental. She'd get very angry if anybody ever ate any meat, and she finally learned, I gotta let go of that. I have to meet people where they're at. And her mother in particular was still eating meat, but had changed, had decreased her meat. It's like, meet people where they're at. The reality is that we live in a day and age when we do have choices. We can choose to eat meat, that is, allow an animal to be killed for our pleasure, our nutrition, our tradition, and to recognize that we are also animals, predators even, and that that's part of our nature. Or we can choose to recognize that we have a larger capacity for compassion, and we can use that to help animals live happy, healthy lives, not for pleasure, nutrition, or tradition, where we can get elsewhere. So for example, I have a friend of mine, Zach, who is a vegetarian. He tries to be vegan, but he's mostly vegetarian. And he loves cats. He has a bunch of cats. He has like 3 cats. And he feeds them raw chicken. And he does that because he recognizes that for cats, this is what they naturally eat. But for him, while he recognizes that he can naturally eat meat, he doesn't want, for all the reasons that we mentioned, to do so, right? Compassion for animals and the environment. He's made a choice. But I'd like to point out that there's also sort of a third choice, right? And this has been something of my choice that I've been starting to work on myself in the last few years, ever since Maureen's first sermon topic, which is to eat less meat. Just eat less. Experiment with eating more plant-based foods, right? Now, I don't know if y'all remember when the first wave of vegetarian foods came along. Were they yummy? Oh, they were pretty horrific. But so much has changed. Have you ever had an Impossible Burger? They're yummy, like seriously yummy. They have like a spice to them that's kind of interesting. And the texture is just like a burger. But I actually kind of like them better than burgers. It's kind of interesting. They're absolutely yummy. The other thing is when I was mentioning this, because I actually don't like pork, so I don't eat much pork in terms of pigs and everything. And I was talking to Beth about this, and she is a vegetarian as well. And she said, have you ever tried carrot bacon? Because I love bacon. Okay? I love bacon. And she said, oh, try carrot bacon. She makes it for Jan, and Jan loves it and everything. So I was like, okay. I actually tried it on Friday. I made some carrot bacon. Now, I should have taken Beth's advice and not used the full-on soy sauce and got a lower sodium one because it was a little bit salty, but I was amazed. It actually was quite yummy. Seriously, it kind of looks like bacon. I mean, the texture is very similar to bacon. It's actually something worth trying. Even if you like bacon and you still want to have bacon, try carrot bacon. There's lots of recipes out there. They're really quite good. So just know that people have figured out how to make things tasty as well. So here's the thing, right? The choice is yours, how you want to do this and how you want to live your life, right? As Unitarian Universalists, we have the 7th principle, right? That we respect the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part, right? It doesn't say we don't kill animals. It just says we respect the interdependent web of existence. And you can view that in a couple of ways. The first is that we need to be vegetarians, right? And protect those on the web that need protecting from being killed. Or you can view it as part of the web of life and death are part of that. And part of the web is that we are carnivores. It's really up to you how you want to do it. I personally am going to try to cut down on meat. But I don't think I'm giving it up entirely. That's my choice where I'm going with this, and you get to make your own choice around that. So Maureen, I hope I gave a good overview of everything. All right. But all of this, the choice is yours. Let us sing.
We are blessed by every animal. Every animal makes us whole with its riches and its beauty. We are called as keepers of the earth. We are called to speak its sacred word for our children and our children's children. We are called as keepers of the earth.
I was busy thinking about bacon. Unitarian Universalist congregations are fully self-supporting, meaning that the members and friends raise all the money for the operating budget, ministries, and programs of the church. We are ever grateful for your gifts of time, treasure, and talent. OCUC amplifies that spirit of generosity by sharing half the plate we receive with an organization that shares our values. This month we are supporting Stand Up for Kids, Orange County. We've spoken about these lovely people before. We love them so much that we actually, if you didn't notice, we contribute to them every other month. They supply food and shelter and things to do for our homeless youth and youth that's in danger. And the numbers are astounding. If you go on the website, they constantly update how many people they've helped, and it's quite a nice group of folks over there. There are multiple ways in which you can support the church and this organization. You can write a check, or we will accept cash. There's baskets outside. You can go through our website and use, or you can use an app called Vanco Mobile. The choice is yours. All the information is on our website should you need it. As always, thank you for your generosity.
Come, dear neighbor, join us for a bite. Gather round a table of delight. Eat food, not too much and mostly bland. Sit down, come join us for a meal. Sit down, come savor what goes rushing by. Eat food, not too much and mostly plants.
All green treasures springing from the ground. Tra-la-roo-la-la-la-la-la-la. Sweeter pleasures nowhere can be found. Eat food, not too much and mostly plants. Sit down, come join us for a meal. Tra-la-roo-la-la-la-la-la-la. Sit down, come savor what goes rushing by. Eat food, not too much and mostly plants.
My wife and I got married when open was a thing.
Tra-la-roo-la-la-la-la-la-la.
But now open is nothing, omega-3 is king.
Eat food, not too much and mostly plants. Sit down, come join us for a meal. Tra-la-roo-la-la-la-la-la-la. Sit down, come savor what goes rushing by. Eat food, not too much and mostly plants.
Should I eat this product? Well, here's a simple rule.
Tra-la-roo-la-la-la-la-la-la. Think of your great-grandma. Would she know that it's food? Eat food, not too much and mostly plants. Sit down, come join us for a meal. Tra-la-roo-la-la-la-la-la-la. Sit down, come savor what goes rushing by. Eat food, not too much and mostly plants. Here's another guideline, and please don't think it's rude. Tra-la-roo-la-la-la-la-la-la.
la. If it has a barcode, it probably isn't food.
Eat food, not too much, and mostly plants. Sit down,
Sit down,
sit down,
sit down,
come join us for a meal. Tra-la-roo, la-la-la-la-la-la. Sit down,
sit down,
sit down,
sit down.
come savor what goes rushing by. Eat food, not too much, and mostly plants. Eat food, not too much, and mostly plants.
All right, so many of you know that we come around to this time of year in March when it is our pledge drive. For those of you who might be new, it's a little bit like NPR's pledge drive. So what we do is we have people come up and tell you about why they pledge to OCUC. This is how we make our operating budget every year. Our year goes from July to June, and so we have to start in March to get our pledges for the following year so we can make the budget and figure out how much money we have and all of that. And so we start off by having testimonials about why people pledge, and today we have Bob Lushan, who's one of our longtime members here.
By the way, I have a hint for you. I grew up on a farm for a few years when I was very young, and we had pigs, and a couple of my friends and I tried to ride a pig once. It was a very short trip, so I don't recommend it. I know it's been a hard time for all of us with all this COVID for the last few years, and we didn't have church services here. I want to thank Sean for giving all those Zoom lectures. I know several people in my university, Cal State Long Beach, who have considered and are applying for early retirement because they just couldn't function anymore giving lectures to cameras in empty rooms. So it really took a lot out of you. I really thank you for that. I want to thank Beth too, for all those videos she gave of the choir singing that really helped our Zoom services. That wasn't easy. And let me tell you a little bit how we did that. None of the choir sang together when we made those videos because we were all at home, and you can't sing together over the computer together. So Beth would send us the music. We would put it in our headphones and listen to it until we thought we knew it. And then we'd try to videotape ourselves singing it while we're listening to the music in our headphones. And that usually took, 1, 2, 15, 20 different times till we could get it right. You hear them laughing, they know. So we'd send it to Bev. She'd take all of those 15 or so recordings and put them on tracks on her computer in her particular program, and take every one of them and adjust them so that we all started in the same time, we all ended at the same time. She'd correct a lot of our errors because she could move up and down our voices to blend them, and then she'd blend everything. And that's when we'd get it. We actually sounded pretty good because she did pretty good at that. I want to thank Karen and the RE group. I'm told they had church services for the kids in the park. I can't imagine how they did that. Visions of herding cats come to mind. And also, of course, somebody's got to run the church and watch it and see what's going on, either from home or from church. And we know that Sarah did that, and that was very hard for her, I'm sure. But we were successful. We had good Zoom services, probably the best in the county, frankly. I think we have such qualified people.
Nation.
We were able to run successful pledge drives and auctions. We're still able to contribute to the community groups that she was talking about. We're able to help an Afghan family get settled, and with so many volunteers, we were able to open our hearts and our property to the Ukrainians. So that meant a lot to a lot of us. I know COVID's not over, and I know we're still going to run Zoom services, but now that we're running, now that we're also running open services, live services, I can't tell you how much it's meant to me to be able to join the choir and sing together again. It's really changed my life again. I also can't tell you how much it's meant to me to be able to come to church and have live church services with all of you. It really reminds me how much church has meant to me. But we've got one other thing we got to deal with, and that's finances. Sherry and I don't go to restaurants as much as we used to, partly because it's so noisy you can't talk anymore, but partly because the cost is at least 50% more than it used to be. My gas bill has tripled in the last 2 months. Every time I go to a place to buy something, everything is up. I'm sure a lot of you have experienced the same thing. So what do we do about this? Well, something I've said in the past, this is my church. This is my congregation. I really want to help them. I'm going to increase my pledge this year, and I hope those of you who have pledged in the past will repeat your pledge and kick a little bit more into it. Those of you who are new or have never pledged before, I really recommend that you submit a pledge because it helps the board so much to be able to plan for the future. If we all work together, we can do this. Thank you.
I just want to point out one little thing also to add to Bob's great story. Beth had to learn all of that software. She did not know it before. Yeah. So.
We can sing together. I'm very glad we can sing together in the same room again. That was really hard for us musicians to be so isolated. So let's sing together. We gather together and sing it with our Zoomers too at home. This is the song we sing every Sunday after our offering. It brings our intentions into words and expresses our gratitude for the gifts we share.
Gather together, we gather as one, for peace, love, and justice for everyone. We give from our hearts to show that we care. We can change lives with what we share.
All right, well, now is that time when we honor the important events and people in our lives, and we're invited, one and all, whether you're a member, a friend, or a visitor, everyone is welcome to join in this ritual we call Joys and Sorrows. So I'd like to invite Lori Kluge up here. She's one of our pastoral care team members, and she's going to assist us in lighting candles. So if you came here today with something that you hold deeply in your heart, something from the last days, weeks, or hours, if you'd like to honor that, you are welcome to come forward to light a candle. And you at home as well, you're welcome to light a candle in your own home. If, however, you would like to also share it with the community, you can write it on a piece of paper that the ushers have, and they can hand it out to you if you still need it. Or some of you wrote them out ahead of time. And the Zoomers, our wonderful Zoomers, hi Zoomers, you can wave, by the way, they can see you here. You can say hello. You can write it in the chat, and then I will read those out loud. So please come forward, light your candles, and then we'll read those joys and sorrows out loud. All right, I got sent a Joy by Barbara Morihiro, who wants to acknowledge that the flowers, these beautiful flowers that you see that Sandy has put together here, this one are in honor of Susan Shaw's birthday. Susan Shaw has been Barbara's friend since before computers. We won't say how long that's been, and also thanks to Sandy Martin for her creation. And Ralph H., so we're going to do online, that's right. Ralph H., he says, to light a candle, he says, a joyful thank you to Maureen for contributing to this important topic. And there was another, Marcia said, great choice in sermon topics, Maureen. And Matthew P., he has both a joy and a sorrow. His joy is that he's been trying to plan healthy meals to take with him to work, and he says he's been trying to make more of those meals with plant-based proteins. He says, thank you for this sermon. It's helping me be more motivated to work harder toward that. Awesome. And he would like also candle lit of sorrow. He said he woke up early this morning with a massive migraine, and he had to stay home from work today. So he said, please light a candle. All right. And those joys and sorrows here that people have lit candles for. Leanna, she said, please light a candle of joy for her best friend, Lacey. 60 plus days of sobriety. She says, I'm so proud of her. Awesome. And Tracy D. had also lit a candle of joy. She says, for her daughter is recovering from her surgery wonderfully. She's hiking. Thank you all for the well wishes, and go plants. Deborah Q., who is the chair of our pledge drive, she says she lit a candle of gratitude for Bob Lushen's pledge testimonial this morning and for his and his wife's constant support of OCUC for many, many years. Amen. And Tatiana Hauser, she lit a candle of joy for being part of this church. She says it makes me a better person. Thank you all. Aww. So let's see, we have a number of more of sorrows here going out. So a candle of hope that both lit by Gail Dufour and Donna M. candle of hope and a candle of good luck, both for Marilyn Friends, who's having hip replacement surgery tomorrow. So please reach out to her, give her a big virtual hug. All right, and Rachel L., she also has a candle, she lit a candle of hope for her son Ian, who's 12. He's going through a tough time right now. She said, please send him your thoughts of support. Thank you. And Mary S. Lit a candle of concern for her brother Joe, who has developed a serious heart condition due exposure to Agent Orange while in the military. Oh my goodness. And Judith lit a candle for Sharon Ball, candle of sorrow. For those of you who know Sharon, and she has some autoimmune issues, she has contracted COVID. And the only good thing about it is that she ordered groceries before she had the test. She said, please send healing thoughts. Please reach out to Sharon and send her your love as well. All right, let us hold and love all these joys and celebrations, all the hurts and sadness, whether they were spoken or silent. Let our joys remind us to be thankful, our concerns remind us to hope, and our sorrows remind us to connect. Let all these moments remind us that we are not alone. Please join Lori in a spirit of prayer or meditation.
Wild Geese by Mary Oliver. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clean blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over, announcing your place in the family of things.
Amen.
Let us join together as we extinguish the flame of our chalice and say together, we extinguish our chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Thank you for joining us this morning. We are a congregation made up of people who all believe differently. And yet when we gather together, whether we are in the room or we are on Zoom, we make up one loving community. We need not think alike to love alike. If you're a guest, a visitor, or someone who has not yet been known to us, I invite you to become a part of this beloved community. We encourage you to either write in the chat if you're a Zoomer, or if you're a roomer, stand for a brief moment and tell us your name and where you're from, and we will bring a microphone to you so the Zoomers can hear you too. Okay. If you'd like to know more about our church, including programming for our youth and children, please contact us at, you know what it is, hello@ocuuc.org, and we will help you get connected. In addition, we invite you to sign up for our weekly email called The Blast at blast.org. Okay. We want everyone to feel a part of this beloved community, so please reach out and we will help you get connected. Just after the coffee service today, we will have a town hall meeting to discuss the progress on the sanctuary. Those in the room, please come back in with your coffee, and those on Zoom, you can either stay online or you can get your coffee and come right back. Okay, thanks.
And of course, announcements. Look at all what's going on at this church. It's pretty amazing. So we've got just a number of things, like Jolene said, that we've got this town hall meeting. If you want to know what's going on with the sanctuary and where we're at and what people have decided, come and hear all about that. Notice also that the AHA group, their Atheistic Humanist Agnostic group, is actually starting at 3. And they normally start right after the service, but in deference to our town hall meeting, they moved it to 3 o'clock today. So thank you, AHA group. The other big news is we've got our Pledge Drive kickoff brunch on March 19th here after the service. We're going to transform this. We're going to have the French food that day. It is free for you all to come and to eat a lot of stuff, and we're going to have fun entertainment and all sorts of fun things. So please come there if you can. Yes, and we'll have mimosas and all sorts of fun stuff. So yeah.
Yes, and vegetables and salad and a vegan crepe too.
Exactly. And there's also some really cool stuff coming up around Article 2. I think we've talked about that a number of times. Put on your calendar the men's renewal weekend up at Camp de Benneville Pines. Anybody who identifies as male is welcome to go to this. They're a lovely, wonderful group and just totally awesome. But notice all these other fun things going on. The Science Fiction and Philosophy Discussion Group, led by Maureen. Are you still doing this? Yes, yeah. It's not till the 21st. But it's not till the 21st. Okay, so it's not this Tuesday, it's the following one. So there we go. But that should be fun if you like science fiction and talking about the philosophy of science fiction. Come out for that. That should be a lot of fun. And then we've got Everyday Spiritual Practices starting on Thursday with Linda S. That should be a lot of fun. Really interesting. What is the spiritual practices for Unitarian Universalists? We'll join up and find out. And then, of course, we've got our Mark Renshaw Memorial is here on Saturday. For those of you who know Mark and everything, please come out. We will be having Mark-aritas. So, so we've got all sorts of fun stuff, but stay here, learn about everything, and yeah, we're going to have fun. So, as my last line before we head out here, eat food, meat or not too much, and mostly plants. Let us sing. Service continue.